You're listening to the Hope Not Nope podcast
with Doc Dylan
and Brandy.
We empower high performers with a three-part strategy of hope,
self-agency, goals, and proven frameworks
so that you can reach your potential
and the highest quality of life. How's it going, everyone? Thanks for tuning back into the Hope Not Nope podcast. As we do with every single episode of the Hope Not Nope podcast, we answer a listener's question. And our question this week is from a listener named Keyshawn. I'm very excited about this episode, and so you better keep listening. Keyshawn says, I've been seeing reels and TikToks saying that positive self-talk does not work because you can't positively talk yourself out of feeling anxious. And phrases like, you got this, are too generic for your brain and your body to have the results that positive self-talk should provide in things like injury rehab, sports performance, etc. Basically what it sounds like is like generic phrases don't work, and that's like kind of this maybe like trend or something that he is seeing on social media.
Okay.
So he says, this is so confusing to me, and I'd love your perspective on this and your thoughts on this, as well as just like self-talk, positive self-talk as a whole.
Love it.
Yeah, I love the question. Also, like, we have our book that talks about it too. So here we go.
Bye-bye.
There's the book. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Doc Dylan?
Yeah, so to answer this, we'll kind of look at it from a couple different perspectives. One from a rehab perspective, and then two from a performance perspective, which are going to end up being the same perspective, but just to kind of answer it from both sides. So yes, positive self-talk on its own isn't enough to reach a goal. Doing the thing, preparing for the thing, and then using self-talk with that is what's going to allow you to achieve it. So in rehab, for example, let's say take someone post-op ACL, and it's a long 9-month rehab. The positive self-talk helps them stay engaged with rehab. If they haven't built up the quad strength that is required, if they haven't built up the capacity that's needed to go play their sport again, positive self-talk is not going to allow them to perform and decrease the risk of injury. You have to build the capacity. From a performance standpoint, let's take something like an Ironman, like something completely like you have to prepare for that. If you do not prepare for that, your body's not going to allow you to do it because it's going to get injured, or the brain is going to have to shut it down because it doesn't have the resources or the ability to do that, hasn't built up the capacity. So if you haven't trained and you're relying on positive self-talk to allow you to perform without the training, it's not going to work. The reason that you're having that pre-competition anxiety of performance is not from a self-talk. It's likely from not preparing for it. So you have to make sure that you're prepared. Then you can add in the self-talk with that. So on their own, positive self-talk without training and preparing is not going to lead to success. Preparing and training and not having positive self-talk and having negative self-talk is not going to get you there. So they have to work with each other in order to do that. And the reason being is that the brain, the nervous system, it works by prediction. And when you haven't trained and you are putting your body against this competition that it hasn't been prepared for, the brain goes into trying to predict something that's unfamiliar. And in that, resources are no longer going to performance. The resources are going to survival. And that's not going to lead to success in the sport or whatever it may be.
What do you mean by resources?
So the brain is working to budget the energy resources. All the hormones in the body are released from the brain, getting feedback, and then the brain saying, okay, we need more of this, we need less of that, we need this, we need that. And it does all this by prediction. Am I safe? Am I able to perform? Do I have psychological safety? Or are we at a threat where we need to act quickly, like act now, think later? Or for the worst thing for athletes is doubt, because doubt is going to not get you to move. Doubt's going to get you to kind of pause and not perform. So the brain is working by taking in all this feedback from the body, from the internal environment, and then from the external environment, and saying, basically, what do we do with this? What should the output be? Is our output like, hey, we can perform because we have psychological safety, or is the output our living, like our being is at threat? So like, doesn't matter, blow through those resources, glucose, glycogen, start turning that into glucose, use all these things that we have stored because we need it now to survive. And when you haven't prepared, the brain is going to start making that prediction earlier in the sequence than later in the sequence.
Mhm.
So, Keyshawn, you have to prepare for whatever your sport is. And then positive self-talk becomes that extra thing that helps you to go out and perform and do better.
Yeah, I think of, you know, I'd like to think that a lot of the people who listen to our podcast are high performers, they're
Mhm.
competitors, and at the end of the day, they like winning.
Right.
And so it almost sounds like this question is coming from a place of seeing something on social media that is suggesting that positive self-talk doesn't actually work.
Right.
And what we're saying is like that's not accurate. And the reality is like if you like to win, positive self-talk is going to help you win.
Yeah.
It's only going to supplement your training, but make sure that you're doing your training or your rehab or whatever you're in right now.
Yeah, and I think he mentioned that something in the post that he saw was that it's not genuine enough to change the brain
Yeah.
or the nervous system. And that is completely false.
Mm.
When you look at the research in cognitive psychology, where they're using individuals having to do positive self-talk and looking at brain imaging, there is a shift that happens in the nervous system in the brain. There's more activity in the medial prefrontal cortex, kind of like the processing area, and other areas of the brain that are related to it. So it does create a shift in what is happening neurally within the nervous system.
Does it matter the specific language that's used?
Mm.
Because the question, I'm assuming the post or posts that he saw was more of like phrases like "you got this" is more generic, where if you have a goal of broad jumping and you're telling yourself like be explosive, jump far out, not jumping up. Like you don't
Mhm.
need to get height, you need to get distance. So jump far out. Like the specific coaching and encouragement versus just like a generic you got this. Like does the research show the language different in either the imaging or other research that you've seen?
Yeah, so there's all different types of positive self-talk. There's motivational self-talk, instructional self-talk, intention self-talk, identity self-talk, um, coaching self-talk, Lightning McQueen self-talk, right? What does Lightning McQueen say in that trailer before going on the racetrack? I am speed
I
and
am speed.
faster than fast, quicker than quick. I am lightning, and then gets out there and crushes it.
Hmm.
So he uses visualization and the positive self-talk and goes and perform. There's all the research you need.
Just go watch Cars.
Just watch Cars.
Lightning McQueen.
But does the talk that you use matter? The research shows that one can depend on the task, but then two can depend on the person. So, like anything else, you have to prepare and see what's going to work better for you. One example is some people sometimes struggle in the first person of like, I got this. I'm prepared. I can go do this. And people that struggle with that do better with using you. Like, you got this. You're prepared for this. It kind of takes them out, puts them in that second person where they feel like they're getting motivational coaching from
Mm.
someone else, but they're giving it to themselves. But it's still that positive self-talk that's happening with it. Years ago, I worked with a golfer whose positive self-talk because he'd get up to the tee and start lining up for a shot, and he'd start getting all these thoughts in his head. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if my back's going to handle it. Oh, don't hit it in the water. Don't look like a fool in front of your friends.
Mm.
If I miss this shot and they don't want to golf with me anymore, they're going to reject me and I don't have people to play golf with. All of this spiraling was happening during it. And what worked the best for him was teeing up and just saying, player one ready.
Mm.
So he identified himself as player one and he gave himself the positive self talk of ready because that was signaling to him that he has put in the preparation that he does not need to doubt,
Mm.
that he is capable of doing this, that he is enough, that he's done the work, and now he just gets to go and perform. The way that he got to that was experimenting with some of the other ones and seeing what is actually working for him and what allows his performance to come better. So I always tell the athletes that we work with of, hey, here's some options. Experiment with them. And which one works the best for you is the best one for you to use. Now prepare these in an environment that you don't need to become reliant upon it,
Hmm.
like in your warm-ups or in your workout or in training, so that when it comes game time and you start to maybe matched up to an opponent that's a little bit better than what you thought, they're a little bit faster, they're a little bit stronger, and you start kind of doubting, hey, can I guard this person? Like they're crushing me. Man, I'm not fast enough. I'm not like that's not the time that you want to start experimenting with, let's see what's going to work in the middle
Yeah.
of the moment. Like you need to go in there again prepared for what is going to work for you. So, yeah, positive self-talk on its own without preparation, not going to do it. It still can change how the brain, the neural circuits of how they're working, but to get an actual performance gain, you have to have the preparation to go alongside that.
Yeah. I really like the point you just made as well of like you should be using positive self-talk in your training
Hmm.
as well because I think of if I'm going for a lift with my history, with my complex regional pain syndrome that I used to have and all of that, what my brain would default to was I'm not capable, I'm too weak. And for years now, I've built up the capacity to do different lifts, but that started with me having positive self-talk throughout the entire journey of building the strength capacity or whatever type of capacity I needed for whatever the movement was. And now when I go for a PR, say deadlift, which I hit recently, booyah.
Hello.
Um, but like if I'm going for the PR deadlift and my brain starts to say, you're weak, you're not capable, you can't do this, I then counter it with I'm flipping strong because I know that I've built up the capacity. I know that even though it's going for a PR, it's not like I'm going from like a 50-pound difference. Like it's
Hmm.
something I've built up weeks to get to a point because I have a great coach who coaches me and has a great training schedule. Shout out to Doc Dill. Um, and so I don't know. For me, what works is whatever my brain's default used to be, countering it with something that makes sense. Like if I am telling if I was saying like you're not capable, you're too weak, and then I just said something that like wasn't really relevant to that statement, I feel like for me personally, it wouldn't have really helped. But
No.
when I say I'm flipping strong, I'm prepared, I got this, like I am because I trust the training that I've put in and the positive self-talk that I've had throughout the entire journey of training as well.
Yeah, for positive self-talk to help your performance and make quote unquote genuine changes, you have to stack the evidence that you are capable
Yeah, yeah.
of it, right? So going for like a deadlift PR, the program is very intentional that the weight isn't a huge jump from what you've been training at
Hmm.
because that stacks the evidence in the brain. You get memories, you get experiences that show your nervous system that you can do this. So that when it comes to positive self-talk, it's not an illusion. If you haven't stacked the evidence and you're trying to just kind of build yourself up with something that you haven't ever been close to doing, like it's not going to work. And I would even go to say like it's somewhat dangerous
Yeah.
to do that of like, yeah, I've never deadlifted 500 pounds before. I've PR'd at 315, but today's the day I'm going to hit 500 and I'm going to positive self-talk my way into that. No, you're
That's
not.
a big difference.
You're probably going to pass out trying to do that. And people are like, well, what about like adrenaline rush? And they're like, yeah, that's completely different. If you can tap into that, like awesome. But for most of the time, you have to stack the evidence that you are capable so that when you use positive self-talk, your brain is able to pull all of the evidence of why it's capable and why you're enough in order to then go do the task. If you haven't done that and you just keep telling yourself like, pat yourself on the back, you got this, but you never actually had it, then yeah, it's not going to do what it's meant to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts with positive self-talk or how our listeners can apply it more in their day-to-day life?
It it's powerful when used correctly.
Mm,
It is so powerful when used correctly. It would be a false narrative to think that the top athletes in the world don't doubt
yeah.
at some point.
Look at like Simone Biles.
Simone Biles, like it, and you watch their journey and their training itself didn't change too much.
Hmm.
What changed was their ability to have positive self-talk, believe in themselves, bet on themselves, and to have the faith that they can actually do the thing because they're training and they're doing the thing, they're putting the reps in. And when used appropriately, it becomes this quote unquote secret weapon of the top athletes that are out there doing this thing over and over and over again. They believe in themselves, and positive self talk is one of those avenues that helps you to get there. It's not egotistical, it's not arrogant
Hmm.
to believe in yourself. We're called to trust in ourselves and to trust in the Lord.
Yeah.
And positive self-talk is not putting ourselves above God or putting ourselves above other things. It's saying we were created in your image, which means that we are enough,
Yeah.
which means that I am loved, which means that I am capable. With faith, we are told that we can move mountains.
Hmm.
Okay, let's use a little bit of that faith and how you were created to go and reach the goal that uh, that you're set out to or that you felt like you're called to go do.
Hmm.
So yeah, anything on its own isn't going to work
Yeah.
if you have a big goal.
Hmm.
If your goal is to use positive self-talk to have more of a positive framing, then that could work.
Hmm.
But it's a specific task to a specific goal. If your goal is to run faster, then you have to train by running faster. But when it becomes a goal of returning to sport or it becomes a goal of performing better as a whole, there's multiple variables and we have to use multiple trainings to be able to allow those goals to come to fruition.
Yeah. Like why not if you have a high goal, why not supplement the physical training with the mental self-talk, with
Yeah.
the spiritual scripture reading or using scripture to help with your self-talk? Like I know some people just have Bible verses that they'll recite instead. Like they don't need to say, um, you got this, you're strong. They'll say like, you know, be strong and courageous, which is like a scripture verse or things like that. And so I don't know, there's ways that if you have high level goals, like it's not just the physical.
Right. And I've had people say and I don't know that this is going to not sound like positive self-talk, but it is. And on my own, I'm not strong enough, but with him, I'm possible of doing everything.
Hmm.
Great. That
Yeah.
reframed you because the other side of this is negative self-talk.
Right.
And to say like positive self-talk doesn't work, that would imply that negative self-talk doesn't have an opposite effect. And I wouldn't say equal and opposite, but we've worked with athletes that have had negative self-talk. And hey, one of the reasons we're working with them is because an injury popped up. And part of it was because of the negative self-talk, the self-sabotage, the always putting themselves down.
Hmm.
And if you're doing that, we call it a silver medal mindset,
Hmm.
and you're not going to be a champion.
Yeah.
You can't be a champion by putting yourself down. Hey, you can be self-critical of yourself constructively,
Yeah.
but then you're going to use positive self-talk to now implement what didn't go well that day into the next day by saying, hey, like I'm aware. Hey, that's positive self-talk. That's good that you're aware. I'm aware that I didn't perform as good as I wanted to in practice. The next day, I'm going to do that. Great. Like constructive feedback, you analyze the process, you're aware, and now we can use positive self-talk that next day to say, hey, I got this.
Hmm.
Versus going into practice and just going, I stink.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yesterday's
good.
thing.
I shouldn't be a starter. I shouldn't be on this field with these people. Man, I'm terrible. You're not going to perform well.
Yeah, that's just
You're,
not helpful
you've
for
taken away
you.
performance foundation of psychological safety that has shown time and time and time again to be a necessary foundation for high level performance.
Mm. I saw recently the Michigan
Go Big Blue.
go Buckeyes. I saw recently that the Michigan basketball head coach said that one of the biggest values that they have on the team is psychological safety. And I think that I'm assuming that positive self-talk has a huge part in how they implement that with their team, which
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
hope story time?
Hope story.
Do you have one?
I want to kick one off because
All
it
right.
like fits with this episode so well. So sometimes we learn how to use positive self-talk by learning from others. And oftentimes that is the case. And recently a athlete that we've connected with who is in the NFL uh, reached out and I was just catching up with him and asked, hey, our nephews are getting ready to they're at that age in high school where recruiting is starting to become a thing
Mm.
and they're interested in playing college football. And I have my experience, but I think it'd be very meaningful for them to hear from a person that's living it out right now that has gone through it and is playing at the highest level. Do you have any words of wisdom that you could offer? And one of the biggest pieces of advice was one, put God first, which I was like, yes, like
Yes, yes,
that's
yes.
so good for these kids to hear, for anyone to hear. And two, to bet on yourself, have faith in yourself. Like right there, he set up that foundation of positive self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
And it
So
was such a great message, and very, very thankful that he took the time to do that.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. It's always nice when, well, one, like how awesome is it that he took the time to do that, but also it's always nice when as an aunt and an uncle, or just like as coaches when we're coaching athletes or working with athletes, when you have a belief system
Hmm.
and you're trying to communicate it to someone, and then you reach out to someone else just for like, hey, what wisdom do you have? And then it is in direct like sync with what you're already trying to communicate. It's just that's such a nice thing because obviously like those values of believing in God and believing in yourself and what God has destined you for and made you capable
Hmm.
to achieve. Like those values are something that like we're trying to communicate not just to our nephews, but to all the people we work with, all the people that we serve.
Yeah.
So then to reach out and be like, "Hey, what wisdom do you have?" And then that's the response. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
yes, like
Yeah.
love that.
Imagine being a high school football player and like receiving that message
Right. From an NFL
from an
player.
NFL player. Like,
Yeah.
how cool is that, and how much weight does that carry? And it's just such great leadership
Mhm.
on this athlete's part of being at that level and saying like, yeah, I'm here, I'm working hard, I'm like in the grind, but like I also care about the next generation,
Yeah.
and I care about inspiring them and helping direct them in a right way that I can. So shout out to him. Like, thank you so much. And
Yeah.
like, it was so cool to see that. And again, it's not this idea of like believing in yourself and putting yourself above God. It's believing in yourself because of how God created you.
Exactly.
And there's a big difference in that.
Hmm.
So
Love
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, Keyshawn, thank you for the
Yeah.
question. To sum up all of that, positive self-talk in conjunction with training the capacities that are needed and prepping is very helpful for performance.
Hmm.
Whether you're coming back from an injury and returning to your sport for the first time, or whether you've been playing for years and you're at a level where performance is getting more and more competitive, it is the common denominator between the people that succeed at high levels and not is that they believe in themselves, they're putting in the work to build the capacity, and they're using positive self-talk to keep themselves going and in the
Hmm.
game because it is needed.
Yeah.
So thank you. Great question. Great topic. Have a great week. And remember, high performance isn't just about using the strategy of hope, it's about becoming hope.
Thank you for listening to the Hope Not Nope podcast. Please subscribe and share this episode. This podcast is for educational and personal development purposes only and is not considered health or medical advice. For personalized support, connect with a Hope Coach at hopenotnope.org.